Start us off, Carter.
And welcome back to Ring the Bell, your favorite 76ers podcast. I'm Carter.
I'm Quasimodo.
All right, then. We're here to talk about all the latest drama. Who is the rat giving away team secrets? How hurt is Joel Embiid? This is a Boston accent. This isn't a Philadelphian accent. I'm realizing that now. Someday I will force you guys to do Carter Explains Basketball, because basketball has even more drama than football.
I believe it.
This Sixers season truly is the season for... If anyone's having a season from hell, they have the worst record in the league right now.
Nice.
They have 3 players on max contracts. Joel Embiid has played like 3 games, and his knee is already swelling.
Ooh.
Jared McCain is on TikTok, but also he's good. Again, like, for all the stupid stuff that happens, NBA drafts are so much stupider than football ones. Because at least in football, I don't know, I feel like there's rhyme, reason, the
Football
occasional
has,
Daniel
like-
Jones aside.
Yeah. Football has just very clear track record.
Right there, yeah. It's like if a play, like most of the time, teams outside of the rare Daniel Jones or Mitchell Trubisky, it's very rare a team will reach for someone and you'll be like, "What the fuck?" Because even the Rager pick, you're like, "Well, that was logic. It's not great logic, but you understood why they like overthought it and picked him."
Mm-hmm.
Like in the NBA, it's just so like Jared McCain is the best rookie in the NBA right now. And, like, the draft profile was like, he's too, like, he's a smaller guy. He's not nearly, he'll get pushed around on defense. And I'm like, all right, but this man has a genius-level IQ in terms of how to get open and how to create shots for himself. And now he's averaging, like, 25 a game as a rookie. That doesn't happen. And thank God, because the Sixers would be so much more miserable if it wasn't for him. But anyway, welcome to Carter and Kevin Explain Football. I'm Carter.
And I'm not a huge basketball fan.
I understand. But yes, we after a 4-hour epic covering the mid-season awards, you could tell how tired we were when we got to the actual awards part. Where I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. We are here to recap Week 11.
Yeah, we started real late, and we just decided to continue to be late.
We were fine. But yeah, so we're covering Week 11, which we realized we kind of covered a lot in our mid-season report because arguably 1 or 2 of the biggest games of the year happened this week.
Yes. It was very, and we're also recording this, 2 days after.
Right. I needed a day to rest my voice.
Yeah, we needed to chill and just process life.
Yeah, I'm very much, I'm in that old age where you get, 1 or 2, again, I'm like a really old relief pitcher where you're getting, 2 or 3 innings a week out of me. You gotta pick and choose. And before I find a way to crowbar a hockey metaphor into this, shall we hit the highlights?
We shall. Chiefs are defeated. There are no undefeated teams left. It was done by the Buffalo Bills. We discuss it so much in our AFC recap. And
all I'll say is,
recap episode 2.
Yes. Honestly, my only 2 notes that I want to add are, for my cynicism about it of but we got to beat them in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. I do appreciate that both teams always do bring their A game. You could tell how bad both teams wanted this, particularly Joshy Boy and Patty. Both of them threw 2 of the most inexplicable interceptions they're going to throw all year, where you're like, they just want it too bad. They're not, the smart part of their brains are occasionally turning off.
They're trying too hard.
Yeah, especially that Pat one where he really forced it. That Josh one, I don't know what that was. I think he's like, obviously you're going to keep running, right? Anyway, the one thing I will say is I genuinely think, and look, I have said a lot of stuff about Sean McDermott, a lot of mean stuff, a lot of stuff that probably shouldn't be on record. I might have said I hate him as much as you can reasonably hate someone you've never personally met who isn't a politician or an active criminal. But
what's the difference? Moving this, wiggling the cigar.
Rest in power, Muppets Vision. But anyway, that's such bullshit. That's the last thing Jim Henson made. Just move it.
I kind of it sucks that it's going, but part of me is super hyped for Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a fun redo, but I do think that it should be Like, whatever. That's a different podcast.
If they preserve a lot of the pieces, I'd be more okay with it. It's okay to retrofit things. But anyway, like the Country Bears Jamboree now, I'm actually pretty impressed with how they pulled that off. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to say this was arguably the best game Sean McDermott has ever coached. Again, the defense still being down a few people. It looked as sharp as it's ever looked against Patrick Mahomes. Like, really, they only had, like, 2 drives where I felt like they were just getting, like, outsmarted. Particularly that one where they just fed Xavier Worthy. But other than that, it was a pretty, like, locked-in affair. Having, not being on your 4th-string linebacker paid dividends. Like, some of the shadowing and stuff they've done for Travis Kelce, who's always had our lunch, was really, really good. And just on offense, just understanding the assignment of, like, no, we're not letting this come down to field goals. We're not letting this come down, like... We are taking every single chance we have. Again, it's the force. Less impressive than the run or more impressive than the run itself is just like Sean McDermott finally being like, "No, we've fallen for this too many times. We need to kill them while we still have a chance."
Yeah.
And then which is funny because it was a bad play call. It was a play call assuming it was man, but it was zone. So Josh had to just say, "Screw it. There's no one in the middle of the field. I got to run." But in general, I just was really impressed. Like again. The 2 biggest things that might stop the Buffalo Bills from getting where they want to are a lack of dudes, like a lack of like a true elite playmaker outside of Josh Allen, and the coaching. But this was the first sign where I'm like, okay, maybe we're learning something here.
I think, outside of it being just proof that the Bills are a good team, I think it's one of those things that it's just like, it puts the Chiefs less on fraud watch, too.
Mm-hmm. That they can run with them, even with all these injuries.
Yeah, all the injuries, and it's like, we talked about it, where it's like, they seem to be kind of just skating by on a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, this one is just like, no, this is a matter of the Bills winning, and this is kind of proof that the Chiefs aren't quite frauds, because a lot of people are like, oh, the refs are helping them and stuff, and...
Right, which I always thought was like silly talk.
Yeah,
like they get lucky, yes, but
lucky, but I don't think it's
the play calling situation. The play calling, elite defense, and having one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it gives you that margin of error where you can get a lot of lucky breaks, where you're still in the game for those lucky breaks to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm curious to see if this matchup happens again. Like, the Bills have more people coming back than the Chiefs. The Chiefs will probably get Pacheco back. I doubt Rice is coming back. But the Bills will also theoretically have Matt Milano and Keon Coleman and Spencer Brown. I was impressed the line held up as well as it did because it's the first time in over 30 games they didn't have their original planned starting lineup.
Yeah, no, it held well for what they did. But I think this has the potential to make a playoff appearance again. I don't know where. Probably not in the first round. Shot in the dark on that one. But
yeah. I don't know. It would be a bummer if the Bills win a Super Bowl and don't go through the Chiefs. Like, Peyton's won Super Bowl with the Colts. Right.
If they win while the Chiefs are in existence, it would be a bummer if they don't do it. If it's like...
Right.
If something happens and, like, Mahomes and Travis Kelce gets stuck on a stranded island, like a deserted island, for like this, like the playoff game or something like that, it would feel like and like Chris Jones was leading the search for them with Andy Reid. It's like, all right, that'll feel cheap, at least for these iterations of the team.
And Coach Spags inexplicably got raptured.
Yeah,
he's just not here anymore. But yeah. Shall we move on to the Chargers? Didn't charger this time.
Yeah.
So the Chargers had a huge lead for most of the game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and it kind of felt like the classic it felt like the classic LA Chargers thing of, again, they did it in the playoffs against the Jaguars where they have a huge lead and they give it up. Yeah. They go. The Bengals go on a 21-point run, and it's like, here we go. But 2 missed field goals. Again, field goals can also lose games. It really felt like, oh, God, it's happening. But
Kevin's crying in the corner about it.
But, yes, the combination of a missed field goal, a punt, And the Chargers just calling game and getting this incredible touchdown with Dobbins. Again, it's amazing how much burst he still has. Something about it just, again, it's what we talked about on our recap show. It just feels like the culture is different. Like any other iteration of the Chargers, this would have been a loss. And like I think one of the best, I think Harbaugh joining the Chargers now really is like one of the best additions of the offseason because he really has overnight changed like the vibe of the team.
Yeah.
And despite it being way less talented than some of the other Chargers teams we've seen, like I feel like, again, there's something about them being slightly scrappier, being slightly more like in the dirt, not having like the premier skill position talent that they usually have. It just makes them so much more like exciting and appealing and just a feeling of like, I don't know, just a feeling of positivity that's like, no, we're not going to blow this game. We got this.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It felt like it was fun. It was down to the wire. That'll kind of lead into our next point, but it was just it was a good showing by them. And I'm like, it's clear I'm down on the LA teams, but it's one of those things where it's just like, all right, you guys, this was like one of those games where it's like, you guys are a competent NFL team. I respect that.
Right.
I might not like you. I might not be your biggest fan, but I can at least respect you as like, yeah, you're in this league for a reason. At Panthers, at Giants, at kind of at Bears. But that kind of leads into our next point of another great week for football.
Yes, we have been, despite their not necessarily on paper being as many exciting matchups, it was a very fun week. Bears Packers went down to the wire, which we'll talk about.
Colts Jets.
The Titans ended up. Yes, Colts Jets ended up being like literally a last second win for the Colts. Ravens Steelers ended up being another shocking result. The Steelers kind of just doing what they do best of like being ferocious on defense and not fucking it up enough on offense.
Yeah.
The Seahawks had a dynamic come from behind victory where Geno
last 2 minutes.
Yeah, Geno also called game and rushed it into the end zone. Yeah. Basically every ounce of athleticism that man had. Just dedicated to that one play.
He was like, if this doesn't happen at the last play, like on the last play, I'm gonna be gassed for anything else. It has to be last play or nothing else.
Right.
But yeah, I was gonna say we opened up with Eagles Commanders, which was a quality game.
Yes, even though it did feel like you could feel the like, okay, this is the difference between the tiers of these teams. The Eagles are a slight tier higher right now.
Yeah.
The Commanders are punching above their weight class, but at least they're putting up a fight. At least it feels good for a chunk of the game.
No, it feels good. It's interesting seeing the Commanders be against at least an equal level team because they're running through anyone on a lower level than them. Like it's nothing. But
I do think it's very good for them. Their next matchup is the Cowboys because that's like a classic. All right, time to get right game.
Yeah. I think. It's just one of those, like, this was a fun way to open up the weekend. And then...
Yeah.
Let's see. We talked about all these, like, very, like, 1-point games. And then there's just some blowouts. The Lions, 52-beating the Jaguars by 6.
Yes, that's an iconic low light.
WP does not have his job on the thing. But also, the 4 o'clock time slot. What a fucking time slot for football. Seahawks 49ers, which we discussed a little bit.
Bills Chiefs,
which we discussed a lot last time. And then also the Broncos country, let's ride, just obliterating the Falcons.
Just slapping them around. That was my sleeper game last week. And again, it's like we talked about. Like it really is like, okay, this is the platonic ideal of a Sean Payton offense, where it's like, if Bo Nix somehow manages to come from behind and win Rookie of the Year, that's really Sean Payton's award in terms of just like, this is the most dink and dunk ass offense I've ever seen, and yet they somehow managed to score a lot.
Yeah, they got 38 points. Sunday Night Football was Bengals Chiefs, which another game went down to the wire.
Chargers
beat Bengals.
Yes. Well, the nice thing, and you know what's great about the Chargers too? It's like, okay, so the Chiefs aren't just going to get a free pass to the division
No,
for the rest of time.
Yeah, they're getting extra scrappy. And honestly, if they catch the Broncos on a wrong day, like on the,
Right.
on a Chiefs off day, and they catch the Broncos,
Yeah.
Broncos country. I want Bo Nixon.
There's
in
a light-
Broncos country. Let's ride.
Yeah,
No,
he's got to come up
I
with
don't
his own
wanna- I would
catchphrase.
say-
He can't
yeah,
steal
that's what I was
another
about to say.
catchphrase.
I want him to get his own Broncos country something.
Saddle up.
Saddle up.
Yeehaw. Broncos country. Yeehaw!
Yeah, but and then the week
Paid
ended.
$2 million for that one.
Yeah, the week ended with the C.J. Stroud's firing on all cylinders and beating the Cowboys, which
A much needed get right game for them.
yeah, Battle of Texas was clearly won. But it was nice to see like they were clearly on a slump for a little bit. But
It is so funny. Like, our expectations are so high. Right. Our expectations are so high for them, we consider 7-4 a slump.
Well, yeah, they were on a what was it, like a 2-loss cold like streak.
Hmm.
So it's like, yeah, a little bit of they were in. If your team is winning this much this early in the year, and you got 2 losses, or like this late in the year, and you got 2 losses back to back, it's just like, ooh, that kind of seems like a slump. But they're
Right,
still
right.
holding their division pretty darn strong. But yeah, and it's always nice to watch the Cowboys lose. So that was a fun ending.
Yes. But yeah, another pound for pound, pretty solid week. We had some good matchups.
Mm-hmm.
The games you wanted to be close were good. The games you wanted to be blowouts were delicious schadenfreude. We'll talk again. I have one note to make about the Jaguars, and that's it. But
Yeah.
yes. Also, your note: field goals win games.
Yes.
This goes hand in hand with my low. Field goals can also lose you games, but that acronym
Okay.
doesn't sound as flashy.
Yeah, that was also, you don't have all that acronym.
Yeah, I missed the L.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I accidentally
Yeah.
put A.
field goals win games. The Pittsburgh Steelers won exclusively using field goals. They did not
I just
score
imagine-
a single touchdown.
I just imagine in your free time, you're just, without the express written consent of the NFL, copy and pasting all these clips together with like the classic NFL music, like the do 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 do
Yeah.
do, like the epic music they put behind like Walter Payton highlights, but it's just a man lining up to kick the ball.
Yeah, but it's not for public consumption. It's in a private folder
I understand.
labeled "Finished Homework."
Beautiful, beautiful. But yeah, and on the alternative end of the spectrum, we also had, I mean, field goals win games. After missing extra point, if Tyler Bass misses that extra point, the Chiefs have a chance to tie it up.
Yeah.
The only reason everyone was so calm, it's like, don't worry, Patrick Mahomes can't score 10 points on a single drive. But also, on the alternate side of the spectrum, the Bears lose a game because instead of trying to get a few extra yards, they play it safe, say 43-ish, 45-ish yards isn't that tough,
Mhm.
which is true, but that also means there's more chances for shenanigans, and the field goal gets blocked.
Yep.
Truly, the Bears are on a Michael Jordan-esque run of cartoonishly sad endings to games.
They really are. But I put it as my don't sleep on game for this week. Them versus the
Yes.
Packers. Because it was, like I said, it was literally to win the game field goal at the end, trying to play it safe. And it was just like a lot of good football like watching. They were competitive in a good way.
Right. It was classic Jordan Love for this year of just slinging it around the yard, consequences be damned.
Yeah.
Caleb looked surprised, not surprising, but it is very funny. They immediately fire Waldron, and the offense just looks so much more confident.
Yeah.
He just looks so much more comfortable and like more like himself in terms of like running around, creating, having like second and third tier level throws. Like, again, the relief for the season for the Bears, like this isn't the season you were hoping for. This isn't like a rookie record-setting season. This isn't make the playoffs. But like, if you can get out of here and be like, all right, Caleb's brain is not completely like fried from all of this, you can consider that a victory at this point.
Yeah. It it was interesting to see the Bears kind of like because they looked so much more competent than previously.
Mhm. Um, yeah, and my don't sleep on game is such a homer pick by me. Rams Patriots. One again, it was another game with Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup,
Yeah,
and just again the delight of watching those two get multiple touchdown passes. Again, it's going to be very sad when one of them isn't on this team anymore.
yeah,
I don't have anything more sophisticated than that to say, but on the other end, this was a really, really good Drake May game. Again, I mentioned the stat at some point that his inaccurate throw rate is one of the lowest in the league. It's just that he does not necessarily have the talent to make those catches. And like something about Sean McVay taking the time out of his press to be like, that kid is going to be elite. That kid has got it. He's got the spark. He's got the chutzpah.
yeah.
Like he can do this.
He's got the razzle and the dazzle.
Yes, and that's a perfect way of putting it. And like I also like what's wild is Drake May is at the top of like damn near at the top of the charts for quarterback rushing yards already. Like he's finding areas of his game that I don't think people fully anticipated. Like they knew it was athletic, but not that athletic.
Yeah, no.
Again,
his
I
stats
just
are like highly competitive stats this game.
right.
He went
Yes.
29 for 39, so like only 10 missed passes. And that's not like, oh, we threw it 10 times and we missed 20. It's like he had almost 30 completions out of almost 40. And then for 282 yards and 2
Right.
touchdowns. And then
And for me, the biggest
he ran for
yeah.
27.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things for me is like one of the big criticisms coming out was he was like sloppy with the ball. He'd throw a lot of turnovers. But I'm not seeing the same Darnold thing where it feels like he's fundamentally misreading the play or his brain just turns off for a minute.
No.
It feels more like the Josh Allen thing of he's like, I'm going to force this because I have the arm to do this.
Yeah, it feels like that, and especially with the like, he's gotta make it happen as easy as possible because the talent on his side is not always equal to the talent on the opposite side.
Shall we move on to the lowlights of the week?
Sure. Let's go with the field goals are super good or whatever that note is.
No. We already covered that.
Yeah.
Those poor Bears.
Okay. Where do we start?
So we mentioned that the Jets fired their GM. Yes, Joe Douglas, and it is a shame because it really is like the problem with the NFL where like he objectively did pretty good. He drafted a couple decent offensive linemen. He drafted 2 very dynamic running backs. Garrett Wilson is an absolute slam dunk. His defense was one of the best in the league for 4-ish straight years, which is very, very difficult. Like again, it is very hard to keep your defense that consistent year over year, just because of like how volatile it is, how volatile turnovers are and sacks are. And he was able to build enough talent to make that work. But if you fuck up the quarterback, there's just no coming back. You know, he inherited Sam Darnold, tried to make it work, got tricked into Zach Wilson because it was a COVID year, and like he did like 2 plays that if you squint your eyes, he kind of looked like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And and then out of sheer desperation, knowing that the window is now, he got suckered into the snake oil salesman himself, who has never once been the best quarterback in the league, Aaron Rodgers. And you can go to the other episode we did this week to hear everything I had to say about that man. He smells.
Yep.
Smelly man. He probably does stink. He probably reeks.
If he told me he doesn't shower in between wins, or like after a win because he doesn't want it to wash off, I'd fully believe you.
Yeah. And again, it's hilarious, the sort of the 2 circles of like new age gobbledygook and dude bro bullshit. How he is like he in the Venn diagram, yeah, he's right in the middle. Those circles are almost like there's way more middle in that Venn diagram than there is edges, and he embodies that to a T. Dallas, the only team in America who hasn't won at home.
Yeah, I talked about this in the recap a little bit. I think it's such a crazy stat. Like it's not even like the only team in the NFL that hasn't won at home this season. It's just like no, it's year, and we got a little over a month left, and it's not just football. It's not the NFL. It is the Big Four: basketball, baseball, and hockey.
Right. It is that meme. There's always that meme of like, have you won this many games in a single season since the Game Boy was created? It's like, yes, of course, the Game Boy came out in 1982. And then there's just one team in the other box that's like, no.
Yeah, it's one of those like oddly specific stats, yeah. But they have 1, 2, 3 home games left this calendar year.
I just keep thinking about the highlight they always show of like people rushing into the stadium before it starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like, I don't know. It's just like, I've never thought about Dallas having a home field advantage. And you realize it's like the LA teams where it's like a status thing of like, I got good seats to the Cowboys game, even though part of the stadium fell because they hadn't opened the dome in forever and almost killed someone.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
It really is just so striking how there is so little home field advantage there. Honestly, that and the Seahawks, there's been a lot of talk about how the Seahawks stadium has not been the usual earthquake it is. But
yeah, Seahawks
all I have left,
a little bit of cred.
Yeah, like they talked about, like, God, there were so many Bills fans at that game. But the only point I want to still make about Dallas is why Trey Lance must be so fucking awful in practice to not justify putting. You spent a 4th-round pick. You traded a 4th-round pick for him. That's not unvaluable. That's not less. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Although, if I had to guess, it is Jerry Jones, who I have to remind you is older than Joe Biden and also in charge of billions of dollars of valuable resources. He gets hyper fixated on guys he likes and will just keep them despite, like, again, Ezekiel Elliott keeps coming back because he loves Ezekiel Elliott. He just loves the guy. He loved Jason Garrett, even though that experiment crashed and burned 3 seasons before he was fired. You know, Mike McCarthy's probably not getting fired this year, even though it'd be totally justifiable. I think he just likes
Cooper Rush. Rumor mill that Jerry's talking about interviewing Shanahan, or not Shanahan, Cliff Kingsbury, and oh god, who was the other one? It was Cliff and then another coach, or Robert Saleh.
If he, I don't know, I feel like he'd have to have like a really bad like health scare or like epiphany to be like, oh, this really is my last. This is whatever team gets made out of all this crap is going to be my last ride. So like I can't screw it up. I want to at least get to win a playoff game one more time.
Yeah, but no. So the Cowboys have at home the Giants, Bengals, and Bucks. Do you think they have what it takes to win at home?
Giants, Bengals. What's scary is I don't know. Because they can't stop the run. Yeah. And it's like, all right, the Bengals can't run, but they have an elite passing offense. The Giants have quietly been kind of decent at running the ball, but I don't know how it's going to be with Tommy, because they're like throwing in the towel. They're done.
They're clearly done. We'll talk about that more in a sec.
And the Bucks, the Bucks have a weirdly efficient running game now, which is wild because they've never been able to, like, even when Tom Brady was on the team, they couldn't figure it out. But you just get some NPC ass names like Bucky Irving, and suddenly you're in it to win it.
Really though, what an NPC ass name.
I know that's mean. I like him. He's on my fantasy team, but yes, I do want to also say the Jaguars looked like a high school team. There was a report that came out that basically the owner of the team was like, depending on how this game goes, we'll decide whether or not Doug Peterson has a job or not. And I guess he got cold feet on that because that was an utter humiliation. That was an iconically bad game. What was I gotta look up the final score.
52-6.
Like that is, again. Well, first off, I just want to say, like, the people who complain about running up the score, like, every now and then you'll hear someone be like, oh, it's Bush League, you shouldn't do that. I believe you used the phrase, baby bitch. Like, yeah, stop them. Like, again, terrible teams keep the score low. Terrible teams are at least able to once, every now and then, show a little pride and keep, like, keep someone from running, like, circles around them. Yeah. Like, the Patriots were able to keep the Rams to 28. The Titans were able to keep the Vikings to 23. Like, it's not that hard to, like, slow down bad teams. It has to be, at that point, it's an effort thing. It really is like when Alabama just puts 3 cupcake games on their schedule and all those teams get like $1 million to just get curb stomped. And it's like, well, this will help our program in the long run, minor humiliation aside. Like, genuinely, I feel like I owe Trevor Lawrence an apology because, like, with Mac Jones, just nothing. Actually nothing. A pity field goal at the end of the game.
If anything, it's one of those things where it's just like, you know what? This isn't Trevor's fault.
Right. I'm more generous to the idea, like the nerd opinion of like, yeah, he's getting screwed. But like, again, if you're halfway through the season and you're giving up 52-6 scores, then it is a full-blown collapse. Like, that's a full-blown team has quit. People are making business decisions and taking less hits.
Yeah, people are going to be considered tampering for talking after the end of the trade deadline.
Yes. And our final low light, Danny Penniless. It took me a minute to figure out what you meant by this, and I'm like,
I thought that was pretty clear.
Yes. No, it's clever. I'll give you that. My brain wasn't laterally thinking that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Daniel Jones experiment is finally over.
Yes. Within 24 hours of me saying that the low light of the league for the year is Danny Dimes getting benched, like literally 24 hours, he gets released from his contract with the Giants.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about what exactly happened here. But it seems like everyone on the team was like, yeah, this is a surprise to us, because a handful of players, and like, look, we all know he kind of stinks. He's not a great player.
No.
He's an average quarterback. Like, I think I said in our chat perfectly. In a perfect world, Daniel Jones was drafted in the 4th round like he was originally projected. And he'll come in for like a Tua or a Goff, like that second tier of like good quarterbacks when they like break a finger or like have an ankle sprain. And he'll be scrappy. He'll scramble. He'll score a couple touchdowns on the ground. He'll keep you in games and keep your playoff hopes alive to the point where people are like, maybe he should be the starter. But no, unfortunately, the stupid-ass Giants panicked because Justin Herbert decided to stay one more year in college. And instead of just punting to that year, they decided they couldn't wait and pick the guy who kind of looks like a Manning, except a Manning who didn't grow up with Eli and Peyton and Cooper and also just isn't very good at football. It's so funny, the people rallying behind him now, like, our poor boy got screwed. We're so sorry we let you down, Daniel Jones. And I'm like, Daniel Jones wasn't let... I mean, yeah, it wasn't a good team, but plenty of good quarterbacks have overcome bad teams before. Daniel Jones wasn't very good on his own merits and shouldn't have been drafted that high, and he got cut. Like, this is as clear-cut a sense of justice that there's ever been in the NFL. It's only a shame that it cost the Giants Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like a weird set of consequences.
Yeah, I do think it's... I mean, I do get his teammates defending him and being a little upset he got cut, because it is like, even if he's not good, you're in the trenches with this guy. You're getting beat up with this guy. And, like, he's trying. Like, I don't think anyone's doubting. Like, he's putting in an effort. He just doesn't have that next level in him. He got close one year, but even his best year, he only threw, like, 25 touchdown passes. Yeah. 15 in that 1 year they made the playoffs.
Yeah, he's not good. For him to be a starter, he needs to be on, like, a 49ers caliber where you just throw the ball to somebody and they're going to get yards.
Exactly.
He needs to be on
like this was
team,
right?
Which the Giants, for his tenure there, weren't.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm of getting drafted too high and having too big expectations to be good right away, and with not enough talent around you to ever overcome your shortcomings. Just it's okay to feel bad for him, but not like this. Like, oh, this is a tragedy. No, the tragedy was forcing Geno Smith to start to break up Eli's streak and then having everyone yell at Geno Smith and blame him. Because that was objectively gross of the Giants, too. But, like, yeah, he'll find a place and he'll probably play better. Again, Mitchell Trubisky didn't look terrible on the Bills the handful of times he had to play. And, like, yeah, he'll find a better environment. It just is, like, I don't know. There's a really great clip going around of McShay and... oh my god, what's his, like, the two ESPN guys. McShay and... Oh my god, I'm gonna go insane. What's the other guy's name? The two guys who are always doing draft coverage. Todd McShay and no. But it's like they're talking, and McShay takes like the positive outlook of like, look, he's young, his arm will get stronger. Once his arm gets stronger, he has unique physical upside. He's pretty fast. You know, he gutted it out on a bad team. He's scrappy. He works hard. Like he has his head on right. He can make it work. And the other guy just is like, okay, cool, but like, you know, if he gets drafted too high, he's not gonna have time to develop his footwork. He's not really a great in the pocket quarterback. He's mostly just, if I don't see a guy open, I'll run, which isn't a way to play quarterback these days. You know, he didn't play a high level of town in college, and like, what if his arm doesn't get strong? It was really compelling to be like, yeah, so many of these guys have like that coin flip. Like the minute they get drafted, God flips a coin and everyone holds their breath. And unfortunately for Daniel Jones, it landed on the stinky side.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Shall we move on to notable notes?
We shall. Weather starts becoming a bigger factor. I felt like that's kind of especially after the last Thursday night game, where it went from a gentle flurry to looking like your TV was not fully plugged in.
Yeah, the Build a Dome people are in fucking shambles right now. Shame on them.
Yeah.
Shame on their cows. Shame on their families.
Which, shout out to Jameis Winston just getting like teary-eyed about playing in the snow and stuff. Like,
yeah, I don't know what that man takes before games, but I'm pretty sure it isn't legal.
No, but yeah, no, it is starting to get a whole lot colder and a whole lot windier, a whole lot more dangerous. When I say dangerous, I mean dangerous weather. We're going to start seeing our snow games. We're going to start seeing our freezing and possibly some below freezing games. And that's going to be a huge factor for teams out of their element. Like, you got people playing out of New Jersey, which they're in a pretty dense city area, so them going somewhere extra windy could be a factor, couldn't be a factor, who knows? And your warm weather teams traveling to cold weather spots, can't guarantee how that'll go over.
Yes, it is the time of year where, like, you know, if you can't play in cold weather, I don't take you seriously as, like, a Super Bowl. Again, it's the Dolphins' problem. The minute the temperature turns low, suddenly all that cool speed doesn't really work out. Mm-hmm. But, like, yeah, this is where, you know, a lot of teams, you know, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens have all invested in their power running games. Whether or not those work out will decide whether or not they get to go to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Question of the week. I really like this one.
Thank you.
If you could switch two quarterbacks, who and why? Parentheses, I made this before Danny Dimes got fired.
Yeah, I put that down a couple days ago because I thought of it. And then I was just like, and then it's like, switching quarterbacks. And then it's like, Danny Dimes might get a different team by the end of the week.
Mm-hmm. Who did you have in mind for this one?
I kind of would like to see, like, I would say, like, put Drake May on somebody that has a better receiving core, like the Bengals, maybe the Bengals, maybe the Rams, not just, or like the 49ers. Final answer.
Well, oh my God, we can't both pick them, because I was gonna say I want Geno Smith on the 49ers.
All right, then I'll go back to the Rams. Like, put him somewhere with just like more quality receivers, and I feel like he would definitely be a bigger talk of Rookie of the Year if that was the case.
I know the Rams have said fuck them picks for a while, but in a perfect world, they would have finagled it so they could have gotten a high draft. Like how the Eagles always inexplicably have a top 10 draft pick. Yeah. They should have figured that out so they could get someone like Drake May. Or even a Michael Penix, really. You know what? Michael Penix on the 49ers. Ooh. You know what? I wanted to do Geno because I'm like, he is the exact level of uber confident, uber competent that they need. He's like, again, he's a tier, like, he's the ultimate form of like he's like a step above what they've had in Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo in a way that I think would supercharge them. He wouldn't be a Hall of Famer, but he definitely win at least one Super Bowl. But actually, I think Michael Penix would be cool because Michael Penix's whole thing was just slinging around the yard, beautiful deep shots, like taking advantage of every single weapon he has on his team. He's a guy, especially because it's like, okay, Michael Penix might not have a long career because his legs are kind of janked up and he's older. And it's like, well, you don't need him to be good for 10 years. You need him to be good for like 3 years.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, here's a crazy one.
Okay,
Tell me if I'm crazy. We take Matt Stafford.
Okay.
And we switch him with Jared Goff.
You bold son of a bitch.
Could you imagine
that
Jared
actually
Goff
would be so
playing
funny
on the Rams if they switched back over another one? Kirk Cousins goes back to the.
He's like, actually, this sucks. Sam, you can go play with these guys.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold on the Falcons would be so chaotic because, again, the system in Minnesota is holding him back from his worst instincts so hard. Taking that away, you just, like, his vision would just turn red, and he would just keep seeing versions of himself being like, remember who you are.
Okay.
Remember who you are.
Here's one. If any active quarterback, they have to be active this season.
Okay.
Preferably a starter. Can go back to one of their old teams. Who do you think would be either the funniest or it would be the strongest competitor?
I mean,
low-key,
Stafford to the Lions feels like a logical one, just because it's like he gives you slightly more upside in terms of being absolutely reckless with the ball compared to Goff. But what other one did you have in mind?
Low-key, sending Baker Mayfield all the way back to Ohio.
I mean, that's got to be the best one because this version of Baker,
this current season version of Baker,
because it's not just that he's playing better; it's also just like he's a better teammate. Like he's just a better leader right now. Where it's like, yeah, the Buccaneers have had a lot of bad luck this season. He's really gutting it out to keep them at least within reasonable chance of making the playoffs. That's a good one. I'm trying to think. Joe Flacco to the Ravens would just be anarchy. See, nothing good would come from that.
That would just be anarchy, and there's no real benefit to him replacing Lamar.
Right. They just have to rebuild the entire offense again.
Now Joe Flacco to the Jets.
Oh my God. They'd have to be better by default, right? They couldn't be worse.
They cannot possibly be worse.
I'm looking at just the list of quarterbacks. I'm thinking of ones that have to switch teams. I mean, Derek Carr going all the way back to the Raiders would be kind of funny.
That would be funny.
It wouldn't be good, but it would be funny. It really is Stafford or Baker. Those just make the most sense. I mean, heck, even Jared Goff on this version, I don't know. I'd be curious to see him on this, this improved version of him on this version of the Rams.
Yeah, I'm just looking for...
I guess this version of the Rams is slightly better in terms of it. You have 2 elite pass catchers, whereas, like, when he went to the Super Bowl, it was mostly just Todd Gurley and making it work with Robert Woods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
What about someone like? What about sending Trey Lance back to San Fran?
Again, we don't know because he hasn't really played this year, so we don't know if he just absolutely sucks or not. I do think he is a shockingly big paradigm shift in how teams are going to evaluate talent going forward. Games played, again, that's why Bo Nix rose up, because it's it took him 5 years to be good, but hey, played a lot of games, he's going to be ready to go right away. That one, it'd give them more upside, that's for sure, if only because he's physical. Geno Smith back to the Jets. Again, if they just held on to him, him on this version of the team would actually work. It certainly, the vibes would be better, that's for sure.
People would probably still have their jobs.
A lot of people would still have their jobs. Or at least have a better chance of keeping their jobs. I'll tell you that one for free. Mitch Trubisky to the Bears. Fuck it. We're going... I love the idea of the Bears are just you know what? We're going to blow this with Caleb. Highest bidder. We're just going to accept we never get to have a good quarterback. Honestly, Marcus Mariota to the Titans would be kind of a fun one. Because he looked fine in limited time. He'd be a good bridge to whatever they want to go for. Who did Gardner Minshew originally play for?
He's played all around the freaking country. Last season he was in Indianapolis. The season before that he was Eagles. I think he was on Jags before that.
right? Was he the Jags? Yeah, that one makes sense. That one would be crazy. But it's like, no, they're just trying to lose now. They can't afford that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let me see if there's any teams I was missing for his. They're like a history section. Alright, I'm just gonna.
I'm like 50% sure it was the Jags.
Yeah, Jags was his first team.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he went somewhere before Jacksonville.
Shall we move on to next week?
We shall.
All right. Shall you give your schedule notes for the week?
All right. So let's start with let's start with the buys weeks. All right. So for buys, we have it's a huge week 12 for buys, because give people a break now so they can all play Thanksgiving week. That's pretty much the vibes. So we have Atlanta, who, after a very harsh loss, they are still currently the leaders of their division. Yes, they are. Still the leaders of their division. Pretty cold-heartedly, so I feel like this is a nice time for them to rein it in, plan out the rest of their season. I don't think they have it that crazy.
Right.
Falcons.
Can I just say, it's such nonsense they force everyone to play Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, it checks out, though. Falcons.
Honestly, if anything, that should be like the All-Star game break for the home stretch. Only, like, you pay the Lions to play, you pay the Packers to play, you pay the Cowboys or whatever the other... Yeah, it's Cowboys and Lions are the two
Cowboys and Lions are the required ones. Falcons have a relatively, 50-50 rest of the season. So, honestly, no surprises there. Next is Buffalo. Buffalo just needs to... They just need to take the week. Just take the week, visit family, chill out, do whatever. Because their schedule following kind of skews a little bit in their favor. Their last 3 games are Patriots, Jets, Patriots. But before that, they have 49ers, which could go either way, because Brock Purdy may or may not be playing that game. And I don't know who their backup is.
Right, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, Purdy might be done.
Yeah, things go from bad to worse for these poor San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. But Rams and Lions are still on their docket. I think they're easily going to get the division if they haven't technically have it already. Cincinnati Bengals.
I do think they have to win at least one more.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're going to be sitting relatively pretty. Cincinnati Bengals, they just need to figure out what they want to do, because they're at the point now where they're probably out of playoff contention, but there's very middle of the pack in draft order. Do they want to try and win out to seem competent? Do they want to try and lose out for picks? Who knows?
Only do that if you're planning on keeping T. Higgins. Otherwise, don't.
Yeah, Jacksonville, just take the break.
Yeah.
There's
don't come back for Thanksgiving. You're fine.
Yeah. There's no upside. New Orleans, kind of the same picture. Take the week, maybe the rest of the season. New Orleans does have a little bit more of a fighting chance than Jacksonville, but and then the Jets. And the Jets, who knows? Maybe the team just needs to get into the darkness, or
No, don't get me triggered about this again. I don't want to go on another rant.
You ever watch?
We're on a tight schedule.
Yeah. You ever watch Blue Mountain State?
I've heard of it, but I've never actually watched it before. If you can believe that.
I'm not surprised. It's one of those really funny when you're 15 shows.
Damn.
And then you get older, and it's just all right, this is less funny.
Why
now.
did I like this?
Yeah, but it still gets chuckles out of you. So the team, the Blue Mountain State college football team was struggling, so they had a lock-in where they all just did a shit ton of drugs to get back on right, and then while the team's doing a shit ton of drugs, all the coaches are in the locker room just getting plastered, and I think that's what the Jets need. I think Aaron Rodgers needs to lead that, and just
He might not even. They might put him on IR.
Yeah, have him, Sauce Gardner, the works. Just all take. Aaron Rodgers seems like a guy that does peyote.
Mother of God.
He seems like
he
a guy
definitely
that
did
does peyote. But that's really it. Big games this week. So we already had Steelers Browns, which turned out to be a pretty good game in crazy weather. Outside of our don't sleep on games, I just want to make sure yours. I don't accidentally say yours either. We have a relatively interesting 4 o'clock time slot. Some games that feel like they kind of don't matter, like Titans, Texans, Vikings, Bears, Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Panthers. Like they seem relatively one-sided as of right now. Buccaneers, Giants, and then we got some other divisional games of like Patriots, Dolphins, which is like all right, kind of a whatever game. Broncos, Raiders, 49ers, Packers as a playoff rematch from last year, which could be fun.
Ooh.
I think it would be fun if it was the fully functioning 49ers and not whatever this is.
Yeah, this jank version. We do have a fun night game for us, the Eagles at Rams.
Yeah, Eagles at Rams is a very interesting choice. And it's weird that I think it's also probably the best choice for the Sunday night game. Because
I agree with this already.
I know you do. But it's just like, it seems like two, like, secretly higher caliber teams. And it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be very interesting to see how the new defensive line for the Rams, without Aaron Donald, hold up against Saquon. And then on the inverse, it's going to be interesting to see how Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua versus Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Right. This could be a welcome to the NFL moment. But it's interesting that you bring the lineup because it really is like the Saquon Barkley and this Rams defensive line kind of like the Saquon pick is so anti-analytics where it's like sometimes you just need the best guy possible.
Yeah. And they played last year too, and I feel like it's two very different teams than last year.
Right. Whereas the Rams, it's like, all right, well, we can't replace Aaron Donald because he retired, but we can make him up in the aggregate by getting these two guys played together and have like similar builds. Yeah, obviously, I'm very excited for the game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun one. Might have to cancel D&D for it.
I was prepared for that.
Yeah. And then Monday night, Ravens, Chargers. Bowl. Yeah, Harbaugh Bowl. I didn't even think about that when I first saw that. Yeah, no, that's a fun pick. That's a more fun pick now.
It's wild we don't talk about. It's wild we don't talk about that Super Bowl more. The fact that we literally had two brothers in the Super Bowl together. The power went out. It came down to a line where like the were able to stop the 49ers at the yard line. I'm losing my train of thought here. It was Colin Kaepernick was still in the league. Yeah. Michael Crabtree, one of my favorite players. It's wild. And like, I don't know. It'll be fun to see, especially now that like the younger brother is now locked in as like this who's got the best out of this.
Yeah. No, I think that actually just makes it a more fun game. Of like, because I was like, all right, Chargers versus Ravens. Ravens, despite looking like a better team than last year, aren't firing off as well, and the Chargers kind of have this mojo going. But the Brother Coach Bowl again, I think that makes it a way better pick for the Monday night game. I think that adds enough, just enough from being questionable to being a good choice.
Hell yeah. Shall we do our Don't Sleep On games?
Yep.
Hit me with yours first.
So my Don't Sleep On game is the Cardinals versus the Seahawks.
Great
pick. A battle of the most fun division this season, and it literally has the ability to put them on either the Cardinals even further ahead for their division, or put the Seahawks on the same level as the Cardinals, at least records-wise. So I think that's going to be fun, and also it's a division game. It's going to be even more competitive. Plus, that team is still fighting. That division is still actively fighting for like the divisional spot.
Right. Every division game matters now.
And based off of how like the Eagles, Commanders, and then the NFC North is doing, they're not just fighting for the divisional slot. I believe they're fully fighting for like just to be in the playoffs, because I don't think second place in this division is going to earn it.
Right. It would. Right. It's very unlikely more than one team is getting in from this division.
Yeah. NFC East with Cowboys or Commanders and Eagles. Sorry, so used to saying Cowboys and Eagles for like talking playoffs. Commanders and Eagles, those teams are both clearly winning enough that it's, at least as of right now, they're on pace to easily both make it, regardless if it's the divisional spot or wild card. But yeah, no, everything else I think is going to the NFC North. I think there's other two slots, so teams that are fighting for slot number 7 are going to all or just their division slots. They're going to be fighting hard.
Oh yeah,
I think.
And for me,
yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was say I think it's going to be a week 17, week 18 decision.
Yeah, and for me, so much of this division, it's like, I genuinely believe any 4 of these teams, because they all have very specific, powerful strengths, but also very distinct weaknesses, all told. The Cardinals have such high upside on offense, but their defense has a distinct lack of dudes. On the other end of the spectrum, the 49ers have the most talent, but they're really, really, really beat up. The Seahawks have so much, they're capable of such high highs with their offense, but they just seem to have lapses in mental toughness. And did I cover all the teams? The Rams. Again, the Rams have 3 of the best offensive players in the league and not much else. And this will be a big test for Arizona to be like, all right, are you guys serious? We can shut up the whole good bad team thing if you pull this off.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see who ends up in the spot for this division.
Right.
Yeah.
Shall I hit you with mine?
Shall you hit you with ours?
Yes. So mine might seem a little crazy. Not even a little, my friend. Not even a little, but that's okay. So mine might sound insane. Colts, Lions. Now, this is one of the biggest spreads of the week. By all accounts, the Colts are going to get their cheeks cut off. They're going to have to be put in the iron butt. They're going to get absolutely bamboozled.
Although,
but
I was say, if the Colts win, Lions won't hear the end of it.
Right. People will suddenly start to panic about them very quickly. But my stance is this is the ultimate test for Anthony Richardson, who had a great comeback game last week, looked like a completely different player, looked locked in, looked efficient, and kind of had the best big boy play of the day where he just trucked someone for the game-winning touchdown. If you can at least go toe-to... Yeah, again, it's one of the 3 or 4 coolest things you can do in the sport. Jump over someone backwards, kick a really long field goal, one-handed catch, just absolutely annihilate someone to get into the end zone.
Possibly annihilating someone to get into the end zone is cooler than a one-handed catch.
I agree. It's more emblematic of what we want the sport to be, at least here on this show. Yes. But yeah, if he's able to at least hold his own, I feel way better about him going forward. Again, punch above your weight class and I'll believe in you more. Shall we wrap it up for the week? Oh, well, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that's a very good example, because this isn't a matter of if the Lions or if the Colts could beat the Lions. This is a matter if Anthony Richardson can hold up with the big boys. And then Lions, I feel like this is just it's going to be another game for them with relatively low stress.
It could be another, what achievements can we accomplish today?
Yeah.
Can we continue the streak of Amon-Ra scoring touchdowns?
They have the Bears on Saint Thanksgiving's Day. So I think if anything, they're gonna try and save up for that performance because that's so huge in their culture. Is the Thanksgiving games,
Hmm.
um, especially because of how it is, they're always the home team. So I think that plus they're playing in the Bears. I think that's gonna be just wild shit.
Oh yeah.
I think that's when they're gonna go wild. So I think the Colts secretly have a bigger chance than expected.
Yes.
All right.
I think this game will be closer than the spread suggests.
All right.
All right.
Send us home.
Thank y'all for listening as we finally get into the cold months. The last couple leaves have fallen. We've gotten our first snowflakes of winter, and the hot chocolates are being brewed. My favorite time of year, many of your favorite times of year. But as we settle in it by the fireplace, let's remember we still got a lot of football left. And until we see each other again, enjoy some football.